Hey guys, I'm creating today's video in response to a lot of DMs and comments that I've received asking for a great way to send OTPs. So anybody who builds a Golang project, at some point of time, they would want to send an OTP on SMS and then also want to verify it. And this is why I received a lot of DMs, comments, and also messages in my Discord community. In case you're not a member of the Discord community yet, go to my profile on YouTube, check there's a Discord link, make sure you join it, where we discuss all of this stuff. Anyways, so this has come up in a lot of discussions, and in today's video, I want to share with you a very stable and secure way to send OTPs, generate OTPs, send it to phone numbers, and then also verify those OTPs. But also this is a scalable approach, and you can use this in production. I'm using it in production in 3 different applications. So very, very stable. And it's basically going to be done via Twilio. So we'll be using this service called Twilio to do this. And the biggest companies in the world use it. So today we're building a small project, which will be a Golang project, 2 routes only, a Gen server. You can see it's running already here. And we will create 1 route to send OTPs and the other route to verify those OTPs. So I have another terminal here, and I'm just going to bring this up. And I'll show you how this works before we start coding and start building the project. So firstly, I'll just send the OTP to my number. And I will now receive the OTP in a minute. Up until then, what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste the command to verify that OTP. And I will just go to the code and just replace this with the OTP that I just received, which is 850846. All right. Oh yeah. So there is a small issue here. I just had to close this bracket. Sorry. So I hadn't closed this bracket. So if I do that, I will get status message success. Your OTP verified successfully. All right. So this is what we're building. Nice simple project, but also very helpful, extremely helpful. So you can just pick up this code, put it in your project, whatever project you've built with Golang, and you'll have a working OTP system. All right, so let's get started. Now, you know that whenever I start to write any code, I always do some visual planning before, like a very rough, low-level system design of how the routes and functions will be handled. So we're going to have a gen router running on port 8000, 2 post APIs, one called /OTP, the other called /verify OTP. This is the route which then sends control to this handler, which is the send SMS handler, which then sends control to the Twilio send OTP service. So we have a service, handler, and a route kind of a configuration here. Similarly, for the /verify OTP, we have a route, a handler, and a service. So this is how the file structure is going to look like. Now, even though this project isn't huge, right, and we could just do everything in one file, but the best practice, as you know, is to divide it into multiple different small packages and also different files. So this will just keep things very clean. And generally for this project, we're just going to go very clean because I am assuming that you already have a project ready and you want to implement OTP. And like I said, I'm doing this in response of many DMs and comments. So I'm expecting you might just want to pick this up and put this in your project, like plug it in directly in your project. So that's why I've kept it very modular, so that you can just pick up things. You can pick up these packages as you need them, and you just put it in your project, like copy and paste. You don't have to do much. All right. So you have the API package, and you have route.go, handler.go, service, helper, and config.go. These are the files that I'll have. These files you've understood because we'll have routes, we'll have handlers and service, as I showed you here. But in addition to that, I'll need a helper.go file, which will have a struct for the JSON response that I'll be receiving from the API. It'll have functions to validate the body, write the JSON, and handle the error JSON. And then config.go file, which will read the environment file. So we'll have an environment file. Again, I'm assuming that you will be copying and pasting these 3 new variables that I have in your own env file. And I'll be having 3 separate functions for these 3 separate values. Usually the best practice is to keep separation of concern when you're reading your environment file, because you want to have different functions for capturing different values and handling different values. In case one of the values is not there, your entire project shouldn't be compromised. You just have a separate function for separate value. So that's how I'm going to keep it here as well. For the CMD folder, in the CMD folder, we'll have the main.go file. In the data folder, we'll have model.go file. The model.go file basically will have OTP data and verified data, the two structs that we need to start working with our project. Okay, so this is what the project quickly looks like. Now let's start building it. First things first, you need to sign up with Twilio on a free account. For the purpose of this tutorial, you just have to have a free account, and the initial testing of your APIs, you can all do all of that with just a free account. Don't have to upgrade unless you're going to production with this. You get a very relaxed free account here. And once you've signed up, you will get an account SID and an auth token. This is something that you want to keep it secure, and you can copy both of these values. The third thing you want is go to explore products, go to something called verify, which is what we'll need to verify the OTP. And here I've created a service. So you'll have to create a new service. And once you create a new service, you'll get this service SID. So just copy and paste that as well. So 3 values is what you need to get started with in this project with Twilio. Very straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and mkdir go SMS verify YT, and I will cd into it, and I will also go mod init, because like I showed you, you're going to have multiple folders, multiple packages that we'll create, so it's best to have mod help us set up everything. So go mod init and github.com/AkhilSharma90/go SMS verify YT, and we have not included any external packages yet, so we don't need to go mod tidy yet. And I will now open it up in my code editor. So here, the first thing that I'll do is I'll create the folders. So the first folder that I'll have is the API folder, then I will have the CMD folder and the data folder. I've shown you, so just open up the diagram that I'd shown you. So I'm just looking at the diagram and following the plan exactly. I would recommend that you do the same whenever you build something, like have the diagram open with you and start creating those folders and files. All right, so in the CMD, I'll have a new file called env, and in the env file, right, I'll have 3 values, the Twilio account SID. So you have to copy and paste all of these values from Twilio, just like I showed you. Okay, and Twilio services. Sorry, Twilio account. Oops. Sorry. Account SID, auth token, and Twilio services ID. 3 things. And make sure you copy and paste your values here. I'll do the same as well. I'll close env for now. And now in CMD, the other thing we'll have in CMD is our main.go file. Then what you'll do is you will have your API folder and the data folder. The data folder, I've already told you, you'll have something called as model.go. And here you'll have the models to handle or to work with the OTP data. So I'll call it the OTP data struct. It'll just have phone number string, and the phone number will require it to be validated, obviously. And then the verify data struct. So when we're verifying the OTP, so it'll have the user and the code, the OTP code. Okay, and all of this belongs to its own package called package data. So that's our model.go. In API folder, I'll have a file called config.go to read my config file. Handler.go. I'll have helper.go and route.go and service.go. Okay. So in config.go, we'll have will be part of package API, because as you know, in Golang, when you have a folder, all of the files, they belong to the same package with the name of this folder. If you don't follow that, you can get errors, so make sure you do that. And so you're part of package API. All of these files are part of package API now, and that's what you'll write at the beginning of each of those files. And in package API for service.go, we'll just write that, but I'm more interested in config.go, so I actually intended to write package API out there. So in my config.go file, what I'll do is I'll import log os and go.env. Now go.env is the package that I've used in so many other projects as well. Just having some kombucha, guys, just to stay hydrated and refreshed. It also is quite alkalizing, so I like a lot of alkalizing drinks. Anyways, so the first function that I'll have is the environment account SID. So 3 different things we have. So account SID, auth token, and services ID. So I'll have 3 different functions for all of these values. And inside, what I'll just write is I will print out the go.env unmarshaled env, and we will start by loading the env file, and then we'll check for the error, and then we'll print out the error if there's any issue just loading the env file, and then we'll just get that particular environment variable, which is the Twilio account SID. So if you notice this and if you notice this, these are the exactly same values. Similarly, for the second value also, we have another function for environment auth token, right? Just gets the Twilio auth token, second value. And the third is the services SID. Okay, so these are the 3 values that you have, and you have the config file for that now. You know from the diagram that we'll have the main.go file, we'll have the Gin server running on port 8000, then we'll have corresponding routes, corresponding handlers, and corresponding services. For helpers, we're going to be having a few functions to help us work with JSON. So that's the plan, that's the game plan. Now let's go to main.go. Main.go is obviously always package main. What all do I need? I basically need, so in this case, in my case, the project name is github.com/akhilsharma/verifyyt. So I'll replace that here. And what I need is API, right? API, the entire package, that's what I need here. And I need the Gin package, which is an external package. And I need that because I want to be starting a server on port 8000. As you can see, we started with router, created gin.default. I've covered Gin in so many videos, so many projects, app.routes, and then router.run 8000 already. Okay, so we have the Gin router working on port 8000 now, and now we need the routes, the handlers, and the services. So you go over to your routes, and again, routes belong to package API. You also need the Gin package here, importing that. And you start with creating a config struct which will have router, and you will create a method called routes, which will basically have app.router.post. Like I showed you, 2 post routes, /OTP and /verify-OTP, and all they're doing is sending the request to this function called send SMS and verify SMS. So these 2 will be in our handler file. So I'll close off everything, and we'll go over to handler, and handler will come here, service will be here. For handlers, we have, like you know, we have only 2 functions. One is the send SMS function, the other is the verify SMS function. Okay, and apart from that, I need to say that this belongs to package API. And I'm going to import a couple of packages. So I'll say import, and I'll need context, format, net/HTTP, and time. I'll show you why I need those exactly. And then I need the Gin Gonic, and then finally I need to get, instead of API, I'll get data. So I'll get data here. Okay, now let's start building our send SMS function. So send SMS, we start with what this function returns. It returns a function which takes in gin.context. Okay, and we start with context with timeout and send it context background and app timeout. We start with a variable called payload, and which is going to have data.otp data. What does that mean? That means that we're accessing our data package and OTP data struct. That's how we're initializing payload as the variable. And we call the validate body function. So we haven't created this yet. We'll be creating our validate body function, and it's going to take in C and payload. So this is going to be in our helper file. Then we'll have new data, which is basically initializing a new value for OTP data. OTP data, as you know, just has 4 numbers. So we want to assign some value, payload.phone number, to phone number. So whatever was the payload in the request that we received, we're going to assign it to phone number. And then we'll have our new data object ready. And then we'll call the Twilio send OTP function. This is going to be in our services. So we're going to have the server running, then the route, and then now we are at the handler, and now we have to pass it on to the service where the actual logic will happen, where we call the Twilio functions. And then we'll capture the error. If there's an error, we'll say error JSON. Error JSON is a function again that we have to create, which will help us print out errors in JSON. And then finally we say app.write JSON. Again, we'll create a function for writing JSON. It will be in the helper functions, and it will print out what you saw in the demo, which is when we send the OTP, it says status accepted, which is 200. It says 200 OTP sent successfully. And similarly for verify SMS, all we do is we again return a function which takes in gen.context, start with context.timeout. Again, create a payload which is different from the previous function. This time it's verify data, which has a user and a code. Okay, and then again you validate this body. Then you create new data, which is verify data in this case, and you initialize user and code with whatever you received in the payload. And then you send it to Twilio verify OTP function, which will have your user, your user's phone number, and the code, and that's about it. And then you handle the error, or you write JSON back saying that it was verified successfully. So this is your handler file. Now we have to work on the helper file and the service file. So I think I'll just work on the helper file first, because we've already used some of the functions from the helper file, so it just makes more sense to have it. The two things that I need to import here, the three things actually, is the net/HTTP and gin and the validator package. Then I'll create what looks like a JSON response. I need the ability to handle JSON in my Golang project, and that's why we have unmarshalling and marshalling, because Golang needs to work with JSON, and that's why you need structs. So you start with creating a new validator, and you create a validate body function. So we called the validate body function in the previous project, in the previous function here in handler.go. We called the validate body whenever we had something in the payload, in the send SMS function, also in the verify SMS function. So to validate the body, all we're doing is we're binding the JSON to the body, and we're validating if it matches the struct for that, and that's it. Right? So whenever you receive some JSON, you have to ensure that it matches the struct that you have to be able to handle it. Struct in our case would be, for example, OTP data or verified data and so on. So if you're able to handle it, then that means just that everything is fine, the body is valid. And then to be able to write JSON, right? So if you saw in the handler.go file, we had write JSON, which is to send back the response. To write JSON, we send the status and the JSON response with the status and the message, which is success, and the data to be returned. So this method helps us write JSON back, send JSON back. Then the third function that the other function we'll have here is the error JSON. So whenever we're handling errors, we also want to return the error in a JSON format back whenever the API is getting called. If we were just printing things out in the terminal, that was perfectly fine, but we are expecting somebody will call this API and they'll get some response back. So we'll have error JSON, which will take in context, error, and the status, which is int. And status code basically is if the status code is greater than 0, length of status code is greater than 0, then we'll get the status code here, and then we'll print, we'll just send back the status code, okay, with the c.json function, which we used earlier as well. all right, along with the error message. So that's your helper file, your handler file is done. And now we are going to work with our service file. So just quickly check config is ready, handler ready, helper ready, route is ready, and then main.go and model is also ready. So now we're only left with our service.go file. Now, in case you didn't know, I have a 50 killer Golang projects playlist on my YouTube channel, and this video will be part of this series. So this will become 51 killer Golang projects instead of 50. And just check all of these projects out, share this with people who you think need it. And these projects are arranged in the increasing level of difficulty. So in case you want to check these out and learn Golang and take it to the next level, this is the place to be. It's all free. Everything is there on YouTube for free. The project, the code for this project will be here in Go Twilio Verify on my GitHub. My GitHub is Akhil Sharma 90. Make sure you follow and do subscribe to this channel. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to do that, like and comment. And in the comments, let me know what else would you like to see. So I received comments about this video, like OTP. So I created this video, but let me know what else would you like to see. And if you go to my YouTube, check out these links. The first one is the free Discord community, where on the Discord community, we basically discuss a lot of awesome stuff. So here we have, we're discussing everything about development and system design and Golang, Rust, blah, 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 everything. All right. So make sure you join it as well. Now, coming back to our project, in the service.go file, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll start with saying this is package API. We've done that. And then we will get the Twilio package, because in this file is when we have to actually make the request to Twilio, because up until now we have been forwarding the responsibility. So from the server to the routes to the handlers and now to the service. Service is where we actually think of this as the controller. So like in an MVC pattern, this is the control, this is where all the logic happens. So you create a Twilio client first to be able to build, to be able to call Twilio, the Twilio API. You create a Twilio client, and this is how you get the username and password. The username is actually the account's ID, and the password is actually the auth token from the environment file that you have entered. And here we have two functions only. The first function is for sending the OTP using Twilio, and you start with creating your params. Okay, you create your verification params, and then you set your params. So you set that to the phone number that the user has sent in the request, and you're selecting SMS. Now it's important to remember that with Twilio, you not just SMSs, you can also do WhatsApp, you can also do emails. So in case you have, your project requires that, go ahead and do it. Everything is given to you in Twilio, like all the features are already there. And now is when we'll actually make the request. So we make the request to the client with the services ID and params, and we get back the response. So the response is what we will return from this function. That's it. So you'll send the Twilio OTP. Now the next function is to verify the OTP. So we'll just go ahead and bring it here. And to verify the OTP, again, you create your params and you set your phone number. And apart from the phone number, you also have your code, because the code is what the OTP is. Sorry, and the OTP is what you have to verify. So for that, you'll again call create verification check function. This is different from the create verification function. Create verification check is going to take services ID and the params. The params have one extra thing, which is the code in this case. And we will check if the status is not improved. That means it's not a valid code, and we'll just return nil. So that's it. That's all the program is all about. So quickly, we are done with the model. The main.go. So we started with main.go file. We created a router with gin default, and we had our config. The config we sent router. Config is here. Config is struct, which has a router. And this method, the routes method, basically has two routes, OTP and verify OTP. We're basically calling send SMS and verify SMS functions in handler.go. So we have our send SMS, verify SMS functions. And in these functions, we're also essentially going to call the Twilio send OTP and Twilio verify OTP functions from our services file. And apart from that, we also are using some handler functions like error JSON and write JSON. So we'll go and create those functions as well, like error JSON and write JSON functions, which are app methods. That's why we said app dot when we were trying to access these functions. And then in our services, we have the Twilio send OTP function and the Twilio verify OTP function after creating a Twilio client. So that's it. That's about it. And then now what we'll have to do is we'll have to run go mod tidy and then simply run this project and everything will be fine. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and enter my actual values in env, and I'll see you back in a second. We'll run this project and then we're done. As you can see on the right, I have run my go mod tidy command and I was able to get all of the packages, all of the external packages and the sub dependencies as well. Now all I have to do is go into my cmd folder, because that's where my main.go file is, and I'll say go run main.go file. Make sure in the cmd folder is where you have the .env file, because that's going to be treated as the root. And here we're saying the time was important and not used. That means something is wrong, so let's check it out. Yes, because what I have not done is I have not created my app timeout. So I'll go ahead, create that here, and I've copied all the values in my env, and now it's time to create or run main.go and see what happens. So now my server has started, and all I have to do is I have to just go ahead and run the curl commands. So here are the curl commands. I'm just sending my phone number to the /OTP, and now I'll receive the OTP, and at the same time what I'll do is I'll just make this smaller. I'll bring in the verify OTP command, and I'll replace that with the OTP that I've just received, and it is 366766. That's it. So OTP verified successfully. Everything works perfectly fine. In case you need these curl commands, they're mentioned in the README file for the project on Go Twilio Verify project. So everything is given to you. Everything is spoon-fed here. All right. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Do not forget to subscribe. You get awesome value here, awesome content, completely free, no expectations, right? So make sure you subscribe, share this with as many people as possible. So you help people. That's all we're all here for on this planet Earth, right? Helping people. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next video. Do let me know what you want to watch. Put it in the comments and I'll create a video about that. Thank you so much.